Good evening, friends. Welcome to the Sleep Discovery, a place where science feels like a dream, and dreams feel like stories waiting to be told. Tonight, we're about to travel through the kind of mystery you don't read in textbooks. Mystery hidden in the spaces between your thoughts, in the quiet rhythm of your breath, in the questions that come to you just before sleep. Have you ever wondered what really happens inside your brain after you close your eyes? Or why certain ancient cultures treated dreams not as fantasy, but as maps to the soul? Or maybe you're curious why scientists now believe sleep is more active and more powerful than we ever imagined. Here at the Sleep Discovery, we don't just tell you facts, we tell you what they feel like. So as the night deepens and the world slows down, let go of your day, let go of your to-do lists, let your curiosity stay awake while your body begins to rest. Because what you're about to hear is more than just information. It's a soft journey through wonder, a slow unraveling of the universe, stitched together with calm and care. So, take a deep breath, snuggle into your pillow, and let's begin. Chapter 1. Where nothing moves faster, you begin with light. Not a beam, but a breath across the dark. It has a speed, a law it cannot break, and nothing outruns it. The whole cosmos is built around this gentle limit. Tonight, you begin to feel how stillness and speed define the shape of the universe, and how even in silence, something always moves. Close your eyes. Let the hush of your thoughts begin to mirror the hush between stars. There, in the velvet dark, before anything had a name, there was distance. And into that distance, something moved. It wasn't a footstep or a gust of wind. It wasn't even sound. It was light, the first messenger, the first whisper. Not a flame, not a flash, just a wave, so fast and so delicate, it did not need a road to travel on. It was the road, a path unfurling beneath itself across the emptiness, without ever touching what it passed. Tonight, you travel with that wave, not as a passenger, but as a witness, because to understand the universe, its size, its silence, its laws, you must begin with the one thing that outruns everything else. Nothing, not even light, not even hope, not thought, not gravity. Light moves at a speed that seems infinite. 299,792,458 meters every second. But it is not infinite. It is fast, yes, but not faster than itself. And this is where the universe begins to speak. Because if something has a limit, if it cannot go beyond a certain speed, then that speed becomes the edge of everything else. The edge of what can be seen, the edge of what can touch, the edge of now and later and before. So breathe, let your thoughts stretch to that steady speed, the rhythm of photons dancing through the vacuum. Never resting, never breaking. Their pace in the heart of this speed is a stillness, because the faster something moves, the stranger its time becomes. A particle of light, a photon, experiences no time at all. From its own point of view, it is born and it arrives in the same moment. No waiting, no aging, no story in between. And yet, it tells a story to us, because when we see a distant star, a soft glimmer 10,000 years away, we are not seeing the star as it is now. We are seeing a memory, a moment that began when your ancestors were carving symbols into cave walls and wondering what watched from above. You live in the past of stars, the past of galaxies. But that past arrives on the back of light. The universe, as you know it, is a painting made of old brushstrokes, racing at the same unchanging speed. Now consider this. If you stood beside a flashlight and it blinked on, no matter how fast you were running, that beam would always move away from you at the same exact speed. Whether you crawl, walk, or sprint at 99% the speed of light, you cannot catch it. It does not care how fast you are. It always outruns you by the same amount. This is not arrogance. It's symmetry. It's law. The laws of physics do not play favorites. They are tuned to this single tempo, like a universal heartbeat. And once we realized that, everything else began to change. We realized time could stretch, that space could bend, that clocks tick differently depending on how fast you're moving, that the faster you go, the more slowly time flows for you. These are not tricks. They are the quiet rules woven into the floorboards of the cosmos, and they all rest on one thing. The speed of light is constant, fixed, untouchable, even in your dreams. Even in your thoughts, you cannot go faster. Try, picture a spaceship gliding through a black sea, its engines glowing with borrowed stars. It presses faster, faster, but something pushes back, not a force, but a truth. As your ship nears the speed of light, you begin to change. Your mass increases. Time slows inside your cabin. The universe outside seems to stretch, as though space itself resists your approach. And then you cannot go further, not with fuel, not with will, not even with imagination. The speed of light is not just a ceiling, it's a kind of horizon. You can get close, but never cross. That may sound harsh, but it gives shape to everything else. Because of this cosmic limit, you can see the sky. You can watch a supernova from a safe distance. You can live in a world where cause and effect still make sense. The laws of nature are like a symphony, and light sets the tempo. Not too fast, not too slow. Just enough to connect stars to eyes, atoms to thoughts, distant galaxies to dreams. But what is light, really? It's a wave, a ripple in the electromagnetic field. But it's also a particle, a photon, with no mass, no charge, no rest. It carries energy, but it doesn't take up space. It doesn't need to be held. It is the perfect traveler, quiet, tireless, always moving. You're surrounded by it. The light from your bedside lamp, the light from the moon, the light from a galaxy that left its home 1 billion years ago just to reach your eyes tonight. In this moment, in this breath, and all of it obeys the same speed. No cheating, no shortcuts. You may ask why. Why should there be such a law? Why is the universe not limitless? The answer may be, because limits are beautiful. They give rise to form. They let patterns emerge. They let us measure. If light were faster, we might not have atoms. If it was slower, stars might never have formed. Planets might not orbit. Life might not be possible. This speed is not a flaw. It is a gentle invitation. It tells you, here is what you can see. Here is what you can know. And beyond this, not forbidden, but simply not reachable. Not yet. Now rest your thoughts on something older. Imagine the cosmic microwave background, a soft afterglow from the birth of everything. A whisper that has traveled for nearly 4 billion years to reach the curve of your awareness. It began when the universe was still a baby, when matter had only just begun to cool. That light has stretched redshifted by the expanding cosmos, slowed only in color, but not in speed. It is still moving at exactly the same velocity it always has. Everywhere, light moves with quiet resolve. It carries messages some ancient, some immediate. It defines your days and draws the outlines of every night. And even in total darkness, its absence is a story. Because the places you cannot see are not places without anything. They are places where light has not yet arrived, where the messengers are still en route, where time itself waits for the rhythm to reach it. And so when you stare at the sky and you wonder what lies out there, know that what you see is a time machine, a layered tapestry woven by photons that left their origins long ago. Some from last year, some from the dawn of time, and all of them moving as fast as anything ever can, but never faster. This is how we measure everything else. Distances in astronomy are spoken in light years, not meters, not miles. Because when you understand light, you begin to understand space. You begin to understand that far away is also long ago. That looking out is also looking back. That speed is not about going quickly, but about how slowly the universe reveals itself, and in that slowness, there is peace. So tonight, as you drift between thoughts and rest, you are already traveling, not through space, but through stories carried by light. Light from the atoms in your bones, light from the stars in your sky, light that cannot be caught, but always arrives. And just as light carries messages through the vast stillness of space, you begin to wonder what else might move when everything else seems still. Is speed always about motion, or can it be found in the unfolding of gravity, in the soft pull that bends the path of light itself? Because if light moves in straight lines, why does it sometimes curve? Why does it bend as though space itself were rippling? And if space can ripple, can it also move? Can space itself carry waves from the collisions of distant stars? You listen, not with ears, but with curiosity, and in the hush that follows, you begin to hear the faint, deep echo of something stranger still, a whisper from the fabric of space itself, something not made of light, but still faster than silence. Chapter 2. The Clock Inside the Beam. Asterisk, you enter a beam of light, not as a traveler, but as a dreamer. There is no ticking of time here, only the eternal now. What does it mean to never experience a before or after? Light shows you how speed bends time, even for your own beating heart. You begin to see time not as a line, but as a stretchable breath. Asterisk, close your eyes again. Feel the stillness stretch across your body like a silk sheet. Now imagine that you are no longer lying still, but gliding forward, not walking, not running, but drifting within a beam of light. You are not riding beside it, not chasing it, but nestled inside it, as though your thoughts have become photons, weightless, wandering. You float here without form, without heartbeat, without breath. Not because you are lifeless, but because here, within the beam, there is no ticking to measure such things. There is only now, no second passes, no memory forms, no future waits. To you, within the beam, everything happens at once, and nothing happens at all. This is what it means to move at the speed of light. Outside the beam, time ticks on. Seconds accumulate like falling leaves. Hearts beat, planets spin. But within the beam, the clock has no hands. There is no rhythm, no before or after. Only a kind of infinite stillness wearing the mask of motion. You feel it, a paradox wrapped in light. How can something move and yet not feel time pass? How can a photon race across billions of kilometers, yet experience that journey as instantaneous? The answer lies not in speed alone, but in time itself. Because time, you begin to sense, is not a universal drumbeat. It is not absolute. It is elastic, and it listens to motion. When you move faster, time softens its grip. When you approach light speed, time becomes syrup, then vapor, then nothing at all. This is not science fiction. It is the gentle truth beneath Einstein's thought experiments. Imagine you sit in a spaceship, gliding silently through deep space. You hold a clock in your hands. It ticks 1 second, then another, then another. Outside the ship, far away, another clock ticks too. But when you compare them later, you find they don't match. Your clock ticked slower. Your journey lasted less time than theirs. To you, it felt normal, a quiet passage through the void. But to the observer you left behind, your time was stretched, elongated, like a rubber band pulled almost to breaking. This is time dilation, and it happens not just in thought, but in particle accelerators, in cosmic rays, in the quiet ticking of satellites above your head right now. Time, it turns out, is not a master. It is a companion, shaped by how you move. The faster you go, the more it bends, the more it yields, the more it lets go. But only to a point, because you, unlike a photon, cannot reach light speed. You carry mass, and mass demands more energy, and more still, until the cost becomes infinite. So instead, you flirt with light's tempo, but you never touch it. You dream of the eternal now, but wake always inside time's gentle current, and yet you can see its effects. You can build clocks and race them around the earth, and watch them come back slightly younger than the ones that stayed still. You can observe particles that should decay in millionths of a second, travel far further than they should, because time, for them, has slowed. You can even imagine twins, one on Earth, one traveling at near light speed. When they reunite, they are no longer the same age. One has lived more. One has drifted through time more slowly, like a leaf caught in still air while the world rushed by. This is not illusion. This is not trickery. This is the clock inside the beam. Not a ticking clock, but a frozen one. A perfect stillness that becomes a kind of motion all its own. You begin to see it now, not with your eyes, but with the slow rhythm of understanding. Time is not a line, not a march. It is a fabric, and speed is the hand that stretches it. You, lying here, are in one pocket of time, but there are others, rushing rivers beside your gentle stream, and all of them are shaped by how fast they move. What does that mean for you? It means your heartbeat, so steady, so constant, is not the same everywhere, not in motion, not in gravity. It means time is deeply personal. It means every tick, every blink, every thought is part of your frame of reference. It means that in the right conditions, you could step into a faster flow or a slower one. It means you are always in your own version of the universe, not separate but unique. This is not loneliness, it is intimacy. Because now, when you look at a star, you know its light traveled not just across space, but across time, and both were shaped by the journey. You know that light left its origin in what feels to you like a distant past, but for the light itself, no time has passed at all. It is always now, inside the beam. The photon that touches your eye was born in that instant, from its own perspective. No waiting, no travel, just arrival. What does it feel like, you wonder, to never know a moment ago, to never anticipate the next breath, to always be here? Perhaps that's what light offers, not just illumination, but presence, a kind of eternal mindfulness where no past pulls and no future tugs. Perhaps That is why light feels sacred, because it is never distracted. You feel your thoughts slow. You are not light, but you can borrow its pace. You can rest in its rhythm and let time grow soft. You can remember that your life, too, is made of beams, of moments strung together by motion and memory, by the slow ripple of events through space, and you can marvel that time bends not just for stars, but for you. When you fall asleep, you move differently. When you dream, your sense of time shifts. And when you love, you swear time stretches or disappears altogether. These are not just feelings. They are reflections of a deeper truth, that time is not a wall, it is a veil, and through it, light slips freely, whispering to you what it's like to let go of before and after. So as you drift now, hovering in that warm blur between waking and dreaming, you are learning to let time stretch. You are learning that clocks may tick, but experience flows, bending, swaying, dancing to the tempo of motion, of gravity, of thought, and somewhere deep within you, your own beam of light still pulses, a clock without hands, marking not seconds, but stillness. Stay here. Let go of the need to measure. Let time become a tide, not a chain. Let it wash over you, slowing, softening, until even thought becomes fluid. And then wonder, if speed bends time, what happens when space bends too? What happens when gravity itself becomes a sculptor, folding time like cloth? What if the clock inside the beam is not the only place where time forgets how to tick? What if time can fall? Last lines, you drift with the beam, weightless inside the eternal now, and as you rest there, a deeper question begins to glow. If motion can stretch time, what does gravity do to it as it pulls the stars towards silence? Chapter 3. The stillness of your shadow light touches you, and so does your shadow. This quiet twin falls behind, shaped by the angles of your world. But shadows obey the same laws of light-speed geometry. By following them, you begin to understand how distance and time speak to each other, and how your every step is already written in light. Asterisk, step gently now. There is something following you. It does not breathe, it does not speak, but it remembers every motion you make. Your shadow, it clings to your feet, stretches across walls, twists quietly as the day unfolds. You don't notice it most of the time, but it is always there. A whisper of absence, where light cannot go. Tonight, as you lie still, you begin to listen to your shadow. Not the dark shape on the ground, but the idea behind it, a geometry. Written in light, your shadow is not merely the shape you block. It is the map of how light interacts with the world around you. It reveals something deep, how space and light and time are always in conversation. Imagine you are standing at dusk. The sun is low, casting golden beams across a quiet street. Your shadow stretches out in front of you, long, deliberate, almost dreamlike. You take a step. The shadow moves with you, but slower somehow, lagging just a breath behind. In that pause lives a truth. Your shadow doesn't move instantly. It moves at the speed of light, and the light that defines its shape took time to travel, a fraction of a second, so tiny you never notice, but real, precise, predictable. Now picture this differently. You are not walking on a street, but standing on the moon, and the sun is behind you. There is no air, no haze, no blur. Your shadow is crisp, an outline drawn in sharp ink upon the grey dust. But still, the light that paints your shadow took over a second to arrive. And so, the shadow you see is not from the person you are now, but from who you were 1 second ago. Your shadow is a time-delayed portrait, always a little behind, always a memory, never quite current. And here begins the quiet mystery. Every shadow, every reflection, every flicker of light comes with a built-in delay. Light is fast, but not instantaneous, even in the everyday moments when you reach for your reflection in a mirror. You are seeing yourself in the past. Microscopically so, but truly. The farther the light must travel, the deeper into the past you peer. Stand before a mountain at sunset, watch its face bathe in orange glow, and remember the colors you see left the sun minutes ago, bounced off the stone, and only just now found your eyes. You were always living slightly behind reality, or rather, reality is always unfolding slightly ahead of you. Your shadow knows this. It follows the rhythm of delay. It is written not by your present, but by your recent past. It remembers where you were, not where you are, and so it is not a simple silhouette, but a visual echo. This is more than poetry. It is geometry. The light from the sun moves outward in straight lines, limited by its speed. Anything in the way casts a region of darkness, not because something was taken away, but because something didn't arrive. Shadows, then, are shaped by the paths that photons could have taken but didn't. They are the missing possibilities, the paths blocked, the stories untold. That's what your shadow is, the map of where light might have gone, but couldn't because you were there. You are the interrupter, the sculptor of absence, and yet this absence reveals more than it hides. Look closer. The angle of your shadow tells the time. Ancient people used sundials long before they used numbers. The earth spun, and their shadows turned with it, softly, faithfully. The shape of your shadow reveals your shape. The motion of your shadow reveals your motion. Its speed and length are bound to where the sun is, how far it is, and how quickly Earth rotates. Each of these distance, angle, speed are bound together by light, and in this web, space and time become one conversation. This is the heart of what physicists call space-time. Not space and time, but a woven whole. Where you are and when you are can never be fully separated, because light is the only messenger between them, and your shadow listens. It stretches in space because it stretches through time, not as an object, but as a line drawn by the passing of moments. Now imagine this. A spacecraft travels near a star, casting a long faint shadow onto a distant planet behind it. That shadow is not just darkness, it is a signal. It marks when and where the spacecraft was at a specific instant. But if you lived on that planet, and the shadow reached you, you would be seeing something that happened years ago. A shadow, a flicker of change, traveling at the speed of light. Even darkness becomes a kind of light. When you see it this way, because it tells a story carried by photons, you begin to realize light doesn't just reveal the world, it writes it. Every illuminated surface, every flash, every glint is a time stamp, a footnote of when and where that light last touched something else. And every shadow, every absence of light is just as meaningful. It is the part of the story you weren't supposed to see, or not yet. You walk through the world leaving shadows, like notes written on walls in a language of delay. If someone could freeze the light and trace it backwards, they could reconstruct your path just from the places where you stood and the shadows you left behind. In that sense, your shadow is a kind of memory, not yours but the world's memory of you. It contains no emotion, no thought, no sound, but it contains geometry, distance, lights, angle, times delay. This memory is written again and again, every time light strikes you and bends around you, and it is shared with trees and buildings and mountains. The whole earth is alive with shifting shadows, and all of them follow the same laws, all of them obey the speed of light. Now you begin to see why shadows are not merely flat. They are folded in time, creased by motion, and bound to the cosmos as much as any beam. They remind you that your body has a place in space, and that space is not still. It turns with the planet, it stretches with the cosmos, and as it does, your shadow stretches to a quiet testament to your movement through it all. So lie still for a moment, and imagine your shadow falling softly against the wall behind you, not in darkness, but in memory, not in stillness, but in delay. You are there, and your shadow says so. Even if you move, even if you vanish, your shadow is the trace that light still remembers. And if light remembers, then space remembers. And if space remembers, then time must. To dot so what happens then, when your shadow is not cast by sunlight, but by something stranger? What if the light itself can bend? What if the path of light is not straight? What if a massive object, a star, a planet, a black hole, bends the path of photons and twists your shadow along with it? Can light curve? Can shadows fold? And if so, does that mean space itself is bending? And what does your shadow look like when space begins to ripple? Chapter 4. The light between the stars, you gaze into the night sky, and light from 1,000 pasts meets your eyes. Each star is a whisper from years, centuries, even millennia ago. But why does light take so long to arrive? And how can something so fast still be late? You drift gently through starlight, learning how space holds memories. Asterisk, look up. Let your gaze stretch beyond ceilings, clouds, and comfort until it meets the hush of night. There, hanging in the darkness, the stars wait. Quiet, steady, endlessly distant. They seem still, they seem near, but neither is true. They are not where they appear to be, and they are not now. Each point of light is not a moment, but a message, a story that has been traveling to reach you. You see them glitter, but what you are seeing is light that began its journey long ago, years ago, centuries ago, sometimes thousands or even millions of years. You are not looking at the present, you are swimming through the past. That star low in the sky, its light may have left when early humans were learning to boil water. That soft shimmer to the east, its journey began when mammoths still wandered beneath the weight of ice and wind. And that faint glimmer, barely visible beyond the trees, it may come from a place where the star has already died, its fire extinguished eons ago, but you still see it, because light travels slowly. Compared to distance, it moves fast, yes, faster than anything else in the known universe. But space is vast in a way that cannot be measured in footsteps or even dreams. So light takes its time, not because it wants to, but because it must. You begin to understand why stargazing feels like dreaming. Because when you gaze into the night sky, you are no longer here. You are there, and then your mind stretches backward through the light of ancient stars. You travel not through space, but through memory. Space holds these memories, not in books, not in stone, but in beams. Photons, the messengers, they cross galaxies just to arrive at the surface of your eye. At the quiet moment when you pause long enough to notice, they are not late. They are perfectly on time. It's the distance that is enormous, and it is distance that makes memory possible. If light were instant, there would be no past, no glow of history, no delayed whispers from far-off suns. Instead, there is lag, delay. And in that delay, you find wonder. Imagine space as a great ocean, and light as a ripple upon its surface. Each star sends out its ripple, and that ripple must cross year upon year of invisible water. Sometimes it reaches us in a matter of moments, like light from the moon, which takes just over a second. Sometimes minutes, like sunlight, which left the sun 8 minutes ago before it warmed your cheek, before it lit your morning window. And sometimes that ripple travels for 1,000,000 years. Consider this. You see the Andromeda Galaxy, the closest spiral to ours, as it appeared 2.5 million years ago. Back then, your ancestors had not yet shaped words. They sat by fires, cupped hands in water, watched the moon with quiet awe, and that light was already coming, already moving toward us. Now, tonight, it arrives. That's how far light must go to stitch together the sky. Every pinprick of starlight is not only a point in space, but a point in time. The sky is a tapestry of distances, and each distance is also a duration. And so the stars become a kind of time map, not a clock, but a layered song where every note was played long ago, but heard only now. You may wonder, why does the universe reveal itself this way? Why must we see everything as it was? Because that is how truth reaches us. Not instantly, but gradually, and in this slow unfolding, there is beauty. You don't live in a world of flashes and noise. You live in a world of echoes, and every night the sky plays them back to you. This also means there is a limit to how far we can see, because the universe has a beginning, and light has only had so long to travel since then. So we look out, and we see stars and galaxies as far as the oldest light allows. Beyond that, we cannot yet see, not because nothing is there, but because light hasn't arrived. It is still in transit, and so the sky has a horizon, not like the one at sea where the earth curves, but a temporal horizon, the edge of visibility, defined by time itself. That edge, so distant it feels imaginary, is marked by the cosmic microwave background, a soft, uniform glow from when the universe was just 380,000 years old, older than stars, older than galaxies, a relic of heat and birth. That glow surrounds you. It is the afterlight of creation, a whisper from the first light to ever move freely, and just like the stars, it too took billions of years to arrive. It has cooled, it has stretched, but it is still moving at the same unhurried speed. Even now, the night sky fills your room with a rain of ancient messages. Starlight passes through your windows, lands gently on your pillow, sinks into your skin. You are made of atoms that once absorbed light from dying stars, and those same atoms now glow in soft silence as you sleep. You are not separate from the stars. You are their memory. You are their reflection, and the light between them, the invisible trails, the paths where photons flow. That light is the stitching that holds the fabric of the cosmos together. It's not just what you can see. It's what lets anything be seen at all. That is why dark space is never truly dark. It is thick with light in transit. Even where your eyes see nothing, radio waves and X-rays, infrared pulses and ultraviolet flares are moving steadily, quietly. The universe is full of invisible glow, and when you look between the stars, you are looking into that quiet ocean, the long, slow waves that connect one galaxy to another, one heartbeat to the next. Even now, light is leaving your fingertips. It travels outward, carrying a story about this moment, a faint signal, too dim for anyone to read, but still there. If someone far away built a perfect mirror, they might one day see you as you are now, long after you are gone. Because light doesn't just illuminate, it remembers, it records in every wave the angles, the colors, the motions of what it touches, and that includes you. So when you sit in the dark and think of someone far away, remember that the light from their face has not vanished. It is still traveling. It is somewhere between here and there, and maybe one day it will reach someone else. Maybe that's how the universe preserves love, in particles of memory drifting between the stars. Tonight, you are bathed in the past, but it is a gentle past, woven from patience and distance. Light has waited so long to reach you, and yet it still arrives with grace. You don't need to catch it, just let it fall. Let it land softly, like snow on still water, because the space between the stars is not empty. It is full of time and memory and messages still in flight. So lie back. Let your mind drift outward. Let it travel with the light that has no urgency, no destination, only direction. And as you move gently between glimmers, you begin to wonder if light takes so long to arrive. How long would it take for gravity to ripple across space? If light remembers the past, can space itself remember too? And if the stars send messages through beams, what happens when space itself begins to hum? Chapter 5. A mirror for the moon. You watch moonlight dance on quiet waves, light that is not its own, reflected, softened, delayed, yet still it travels at the same speed. Mirrors, silver pools, and polished stones all play with the path of light. Even in its redirection, its velocity holds firm. You begin to feel the certainty of its pace, like a heartbeat of the universe. You sit at the edge of stillness. The sea stretches before you like a quiet breath, dark and wide beneath a pale silver sky. Above, the moon drifts silent, steady, glowing not with fire, but with borrowed light. You notice how the waves shimmer, how each gentle ripple catches and scatters that glow. And you begin to see it, the quiet truth hidden in plain view. The moon does not shine. It reflects its light, the silver that touches your face, the glow that outlines your hands. The path it paints across the water belongs to the sun. The moon is only a mirror, a floating stone caught in Earth's pull, curved just right to catch sunlight and send it your way. Even now, you are bathed not in moonlight, but in sunlight that has traveled twice. First from the sun to the moon, then from the moon to you. The journey is quiet, but not instant. It takes just over a second for that second leg, from the moon's surface to your skin, and even though the light has been bounced, redirected, softened by dust and rock and time, its speed remains unchanged. This is the miracle of light. Its direction may shift, its intensity may dim, its color may stretch, but its pace remains steady. Always, everywhere. You begin to sense it now. A kind of universal heartbeat, measured not in beats or seconds, but in constancy. Nothing in the universe moves faster. Nothing ever has, even when it bounces from a mirror, even when it passes through water, even when it is bent by glass or slowed by fog. Its true speed, in vacuum, in emptiness, never wavers. And so you sit beneath the moon, listening to the certainty of light's path. You think of mirrors, smooth and polished, silent and strange. Hold one in your hand, tilt it just so, and it becomes a small version of the sky. The moon appears inside it, folded and distant, as though you've cupped a piece of space itself. But the image is not the moon. It is light, light that struck the moon, bounced to your mirror and entered your eyes. Each movement took time. Tiny, invisible fractions of time, but real, precise. Even here, even now, your mirror becomes a time machine. A small delay, a moment already past. But because light's speed is always the same, you can measure that moment. You can trace it. And people have. Long ago, scientists placed mirrors on the moon. Small, tidy reflectors planted there by astronauts in the dust. Even now, decades later, we still send beams of light toward them. Lasers, quick, narrow pulses. The light travels to the moon, bounces back, and returns to our instruments by measuring the round trip time, just a little over 2.5 seconds. We can calculate the distance to the moon down to the millimeter. Not because the moon is close, but because light is exact. The beam doesn't need to see. It doesn't need to feel. It just moves. And in its motion, it keeps time for the whole universe. You begin to wonder what else acts as a mirror. What other surfaces send light back without changing its speed? You glance at the surface of the sea. There, the moon dances a soft streak of silver rippling on every wave. The water reflects not with perfection, but with poetry. It curves and shivers, but the light still moves with faithful speed. A puddle, a lake, a pane of glass, the eye of another person, all mirrors, in a way. All redirecting photons without altering their pace. And even when the path twists, when light bounces once, twice, 100 times inside a gemstone, the final speed between each bounce never changes. What changes is the distance, the detour, the delay, and so a reflection is not just light's image, it's light's journey. You begin to feel this not as a concept, but as a rhythm. A child's laugh reflected in a window, the glint of a coin beneath water, the gleam of stars in an animal's eye, all of it redirections of light, all obeying the same tempo, and yet not all mirrors are visible. Imagine a planet wrapped in clouds, a Venus thick with vapor and acid, its surface hidden, its sunlight diffused. Still, some light reflects, some escapes. It moves, curves, loops, but it does not slow. Even the clouds, thick as they are, cannot stop that rhythm. It may take longer, it may stretch the path, but the moment the photon is free, it resumes its eternal speed. You find this comforting, the idea that no matter how often light is interrupted, its pace remains pure. And it's not just mirrors and moons. Deep underground, in dark laboratories, scientists use light to measure changes so small they border on impossible. They use lasers reflected down long tunnels to catch the faintest ripples in space waves caused by colliding black holes half a universe away. Even there, in silence, in secrecy, light carries the message. It reflects, returns, and tells us what space itself has done. Without mirrors, without reflection, these stories would go unread. And all the while, light remains faithful. There is something poetic about this, something personal. You are surrounded by mirrors. Your memories are mirrors. Your thoughts, reflections of moments, bounced and refracted through time. And in your eyes, clear, curved, fluid, light dances and bends so that you can see. Each glance you offer, the world is shaped by light's constant travel, by the way it reflects inside you. Even your mind is built upon light, the light your eyes have gathered since the moment you opened them, and every moment since. You've lived among reflections, not illusions, but echoes of truth. What you see, what you remember, what you dream, all shaped by light's exact pace. And so, as you sit beneath the sky's calm glow, you begin to feel it. Light is not just a traveler. It is a clock, a heartbeat. Each reflection on water, on mirrors, on faces is a ticking stomp, a note in the melody of movement, not faster, not slower, just perfectly, predictably present. The moonlight touching your skin is old sunlight softened by lunar dust, delayed by space, but still, it moves as it always has, and that is enough to build a universe upon. Now imagine, what if light didn't behave this way? What if mirrors changed its speed? What if reflection altered its rhythm? The world would become unreadable. Distances would lose meaning. Time would stretch without anchor. But it doesn't, because mirrors do not lie. Not in the way light moves. They bend it. They shift its path, but they never rewrite its tempo. And that means every reflection you've ever seen has followed the same rule, from your first glance at a mirror as a child, to the way the moon reflects sunlight tonight. All obey the same silent command: move, but never faster than this. And that, you realize, is what makes the universe coherent. Not its chaos, but its certainty. Light always moves the same way. No matter how many mirrors it passes, no matter how many turns. So lie still, let your body soften, let your thoughts become like polished stone, reflecting but not distorting. You are part of this rhythm. Every cell in your body has been touched by light. Every shadow you cast is a poem written by reflection. And even when you sleep, light continues its journey, its perfect, predictable glide across the face of space. But if reflection leaves light unchanged, what about gravity? What if space itself can bend the path of light, not with mirrors, but with mass? What happens when a star is heavy enough to pull the very beams of light into a curve? What happens when gravity sculpts reflection on a cosmic scale? Chapter 6. Threads in the fabric. You lie back and feel the invisible cloth of space. Threads stretch and flex where light moves and matter rests. Gravity is not a pull, but a curve, and light always follows the curve. Tonight, you walk the invisible slopes that bend beams, and see how even the straightest path is shaped by presence. You lie still, as though you are floating not on a bed, but upon something deeper, softer than silk, vaster than oceans. It does not rustle, does not shimmer, but you can feel it if you imagine hard enough. The great, unseen fabric that holds everything together. Not cloth, not canvas, but space. Tonight, space is not emptiness. It is a web, and you are cradled in its threads. Everywhere you look, everywhere you've ever been, is part of this silent weave. You are not sitting in space. You are sitting on it, of it. And like any fabric, it can bend, not metaphorically, not just as an idea, but physically. Really, space is not rigid. It responds to mass, to motion, to light. And this bending of space is what you've always known as gravity. You were taught, perhaps, that gravity is a force, a tug from Earth that pulls apples down, a grip that holds planets in orbit. But tonight, as you rest in this deep and quiet hour, you begin to see gravity differently, not as a hand that pulls, but as a slope that curves, and everything that has mass, a star, a moon, a planet, even you, bends the fabric beneath it. You are lying now on a bed that gently sinks into this invisible sheet. Earth's presence curves space, and you rest in the fold. Imagine a stretched blanket pulled tight across a frame. Now place a marble in the center. It sinks the cloth, not because it wants to, but because the fabric responds. Now roll another marble nearby. It doesn't head straight, it curves, not because the other marble pulled it, but because it's following the slope. That's gravity, and in the universe, space behaves this way. But not just in two dimensions, in all directions, in the quiet, four-dimensional rhythm of space-time. The fabric curves because something is there, and everything else, even light, must follow the curve. Light, travels straight. It moves forward with perfect grace, never swerving. But in curved space, straight lines aren't what they used to be. They bend, because the space they move through bends, so light bends. Too, not by choice, but by path. You may have heard of this, gravitational lensing, the bending of starlight around galaxies, around black holes, around anything with enough mass to wrinkle the fabric, and so, in the vastness of the cosmos, you might see a star not where it truly is, but where its light has been curved to appear. You are watching a beam follow the slope of space. The universe becomes a gallery of curved illusions, and every curve is a clue to what's hiding in the cloth. Einstein saw this. He looked beyond Newton's invisible hands and imagined the universe as pliable. He wrote the equations that would predict how a planet moves, how a beam of light curves, how time slows when space is bent enough, and what he saw has been measured. Again and again, starlight passing the edge of the sun bends just enough to prove the space near. The sun is curved. This bending is not chaos. It is elegance. It follows rules. It has form. Where there is mass, there is curve. Where there is curve, there is motion, and light, faithful to the fabric, follows every slope. You begin to feel it now, the gentle tension beneath all things. Earth presses into the fabric. The moon rides the curve. It creates. The tides rise and fall, not because water is pulled, but because water flows through bent space. Even your breath follows a path shaped by this curvature. Even your thoughts, bound to the matter of your body, are folded into the same invisible tapestry. Now, picture something vast. A star, 10 times the mass of our sun. When it burns out, its core collapses. Its weight becomes immense, its size shrinks, and it folds space into something so steep, not even light can escape. A black hole, not a thing, but a place. A region of space where the slope becomes infinite, where the fabric plunges like a funnel without end. To an outside observer, light seems to slow as it nears the edge. It grows red, dim, delayed, until it disappears. But from light's point of view, it is just following the path, still moving at its speed, still gliding along the curve. It does not feel trapped. It feels like a traveler on a road that loops too tightly to return. This, too, is part of the fabric. And black holes aren't the only places where space bends sharply. Galaxies do it. Planets do it. You do it, too, in the tiniest way. Your body has mass, and mass reshapes space, minutely, invisibly, but truthfully. You are not just resting on the fabric. You are shaping it. The earth feels you. The universe feels you, not emotionally, but geometrically. Your presence leaves a trace, a depression, a curve, and so your every movement is part of a greater pattern, an interaction with the shape of space. You are a thread in this weave, not separate, but stitched in. And like any cloth, when one thread moves, the others ripple. This is how gravity travels, not as a force with speed, but as a wave of curves moving through the fabric. You've heard of them, perhaps gravitational waves. Ripples in space itself, caused by massive events, black holes colliding, stars exploding. They move outward from their source, warping the fabric gently, stretching and squeezing the space they pass through. And yet, these ripples are so subtle they pass through you without a sound. Only the most sensitive instruments can feel them, machines like LIGO and Virgo, that use mirrors and lasers to detect the smallest motions in the very shape of distance itself. These instruments do not hear, they do not see, they measure space. And through them we learn that even silence can ripple. These waves are the whispers of ancient collisions, journeys that began billions of years ago, crossing the void to reach us now. They carry no light, but they are part of the same dance. Light follows the fabric. Gravity is the fabric. You live upon it, you shape it, you move through it, and now, as you breathe quietly, you begin to imagine what it means to live in a curved world. It means your body moves not because it's pulled, but because it's gliding along the shape of space. It means falling is not failing, it is following the shortest path through a curved geometry. It means the planets do not circle the sun because they are held by invisible strings, but because the sun curves space and the planets follow the slope. They are not orbiting, they are coasting, and everything from a comet to a photon takes the same path when space curves. This is why light can bend, why galaxies can lend starlight into rings and arcs, why distant quasars appear as mirrored versions of themselves, split by the geometry of space to me. You live in a world where even vision is shaped by curves, and yet, amidst all this bending, light remains constant. It does not resist, it simply flows. That's what makes the fabric work. Its threads are woven with laws, but those laws are flexible. They allow for motion, for slope, for ripple, and in that flexibility you find possibility. If space can bend, then the universe can evolve. It can stretch, it can move, it can respond. You are not in a rigid machine. You are in a living geometry, and your body, your very self, is not floating in space, but entangled with it. You bend space, and space tells you how to move. This, at last, is the quiet heart of it all. You do not fall toward Earth. You follow the curve that Earth creates. You are not pushed. You are not pulled. You glide. Even in sleep, you follow the geometry. Even in thought, your atoms obey it. And light, our old companion, never argues. It moves forward along whatever shape it's given, not in defiance, but in agreement. And now, as your thoughts stretch across this night, you begin to wonder, if the universe has shape, if it can bend, can it also grow? Can the fabric itself expand? Not just ripple, not just fold, but stretch? And if so, what lies at the edge of a fabric that is always growing? Chapter 7. The lantern that measures time. You hold a clock made not of gears, but of light bouncing between mirrors. Each bounce is a tick, precise and patient. But when you move, the clock slows, not broken, just obeying a deeper law. You begin to wonder, is time fixed, or does it dance to the rhythm of motion? And in your wonder, you feel yourself slow too. You close your eyes and hold something in your mind, a lantern, but not a lantern of fire or oil, not one that glows with flame. This one shines with something quieter, a single beam of light trapped between two mirrors, one mirror above, one below. Light bounces between them, back and forth, up and down, tick and tock. This is a clock, no gears, no hands, no sound. Just light. Each bounce is a moment. Each return is a tick. This, you are told, is the purest kind of clock. Nothing to wear down. Nothing to rust. Only light and its perfect rhythm. Now, imagine holding this clock in your hands. It stands still. The beam moves between the mirrors, up, down, like the slow breathing of the cosmos. You measure time not by the sweep of seconds, but by the journey of a photon. And it is always the same, always constant, until you begin to move. You walk, gently, the lantern in your hands, and something strange begins to happen. The light is still bouncing between the mirrors, yes. But now, as you move forward, the light has farther to travel. It is no longer just going up and down. It is tracing a diagonal path, a longer line, like the path of a firefly drifting upward through a moving train. Each bounce takes more time. Not because light slows, it never does, but because the distance it travels is longer, and so the ticks of your lantern clock begin to slow. This is not an illusion. It is real. Time for your moving clock moves more slowly than for someone. Standing still, the faster you go, the more slowly your light ticks. This is not a trick of machines. This is the rhythm of reality. You have just discovered time dilation. You sit quietly now, letting the idea settle. Time is not fixed. It is not the same for everyone. It changes depending on how you move, and your clock of light, so simple, so patient, tells you the truth. Imagine riding a spaceship near the speed of light. To you, inside, your light clock seems normal. The beam bounces up and down, steady as ever. But to someone watching from the outside, someone standing still, the beam is moving diagonally, zigzagging through space, taking longer to complete. Each bounce, your time appears to them as slowed down. And if you return, you will find they have aged more than you. It is not magic. It is not fiction. It is a quiet law written into the shape of space and time. Even airplanes, speeding high above the clouds, feel this. Tiny clocks aboard them tick just a bit more slowly than clocks resting on Earth. The difference is small, milliseconds, but it is measurable, and it is real. Time bends, not only with gravity, but with motion, and the clock of light reveals it all. You begin to feel how strange this is, how deeply personal, because if time moves differently for different travelers, then there is no universal now. Your now is not quite the same as someone far away. Moving differently, your present is your own. Each traveler carries a different rhythm. Each clock a different song, and yet light stays the same. Its speed never shifts. It is the one fixed point in all the change. This is why time must bend, not because light is uncertain, but because it is so certain. Light moves at one speed. Always, everywhere. So when you move, the rest must adjust. Time must bend to preserve that constancy. And so, the universe dances around the beam. You see it now, the symmetry, the grace. The more you move, the slower your clock. And the farther you travel, the more your time stretches. You lie still again, imagining the beam in your lantern. It bounces slowly now. Not because anything is broken, but because the laws are being obeyed. The lantern, simple as it is, has become your guide. You picture other clocks, atomic ones, mechanical ones, your own pulse. They all slow when you move fast enough. Not because of wear, but because of space and time. You wonder, If time can stretch like this, what else is flexible? What else bends but does not break? You are beginning to feel it, how deeply connected motion and time are. You cannot move through space without touching time. They are one fabric, woven together. So when you move through space, you also shift in time. And when you are still, you age faster than those in motion. Not because you've done anything wrong, because this is how the universe keeps balance. The more you travel, the more slowly your lantern glows. You think again of astronauts traveling for years at near light speed, returning home to find the world changed, not because of accident, but because of time's elasticity. The universe makes no judgment, it only follows rhythm. Even now, GPS satellites must adjust for time dilation, moving high above the Earth. Moving fast, their clocks drift. If we did not account for it, our maps would fail, time would not agree, and our signals would fall out of tune. But we do adjust, because we know now that time is not one drumbeat, it is many, each shaped by gravity, by speed, by position. And yet, your inner sense of time remains. Your breath still rises and falls. Your thoughts still unfurl in gentle measure. And this is what makes time so mysterious. It is both rigid and fluid, both absolute and relative. It ticks inside you as faithfully as it drifts between stars, and in the silence of your imagination, you hold the lantern again. The mirrors reflect, the beam moves, tick, tock, tick. Even now, the light knows only one speed, but the ticks know your motion, and your motion knows the ticks. They are not separate, they are joined. You wonder what happens if your clock of light moves not just fast, but near the speed of light. Then the beam's journey stretches. Time itself nearly stops. From the outside, your lantern ticks slower and slower still, approaching stillness. A second for you might be years for someone watching, but to you, inside, everything feels the same. You move through space as though time never changed. This is the great paradox of motion. You live your seconds, but the rest of the universe may live more. And yet no one is wrong. No clock is broken. Each one keeps time for its own path. So when you see someone else's clock move faster or slower than yours, know this: you are both right. Time is not a single story. It is a library. Each traveler writes a page with each tick and the lantern you hold, the one made of mirrors and light, reminds you that every moment is a journey, even when you are still, because the universe is not still. It moves and bends and breathes, and so do you. You let the image of the clock fade, let the mirrors dissolve, let the beam drift outward. You are not holding the lantern now, you are the lantern, you are the clock. And time moves through you like light between glass. Each heartbeat is a tick, each breath a reflection. And as you lie there, gentle and still, you begin to ask if time slows with speed. What happens when the whole universe starts to stretch? If a single traveler feels time bend, what happens when space itself begins to move? Last lines. The beam still bounces in its lantern, but space around it begins to hum, as if the entire fabric of distance and time has started to drift outward, carrying the clocks along. Chapter 8. The slowness of space travel. You, board an imaginary spacecraft, gliding through deep, dark oceans of space. No matter how hard you push, you can never catch the light ahead. Engines roar quietly, but the limit remains. Why does mass grow heavier as you try to go faster? You begin to learn that speed has a cost, and stillness, a kind of wisdom. You are aboard a ship, now not one of sails and masts, but one of silent engines and silver panels, adrift in a sea with no waves, no shore. The stars are still. They shimmer faintly, like frost caught in a breath. And you are moving, though it hardly feels like motion. There is no wind here, no trees rushing past, no sound to mark your speed, only the deep quiet of an endless, open darkness. You ease. Your breath, you feel the gentle hum of the engines, the soft glow of panels beneath your fingers. Everything is smooth. Everything obeys. But ahead of you, always ahead, is light, a beam, a particle, a path, moving at the same pace it always has. The universal constant dot, you reach for it. You command your engines to burn hotter. You feel the ship respond, a low rumble, a ripple through your bones. You go faster, and yet you do not gain on the light dot. It remains just as far, just as unreachable as when you first began. The faster you go, the faster it seems to go, not because it's fleeing, but because it cannot be caught. No matter how much energy you spend, no matter how much fuel you burn, you never reach the speed of light. You can approach, you can dream, but the door will never open. It's not a wall, it's a horizon. And now you begin to feel it. The resistance, the quiet mounting cost of your speed. It is not the wind against your hull. There is no air here. It is not gravity pulling you back. You are too far from anything that holds. It is something deeper, something written into the nature of motion itself. As you accelerate, you begin to carry more than momentum. Your mass, your ship's very essence begins to change, not grow, not swell, but become heavier, as if the universe itself is reminding you, this path comes at a price. You try again, engines flaring now, glowing white-hot in the silence, and with each push, you feel the energy pour in, but it no longer becomes speed. It becomes weight. It becomes inertia. It becomes the deepening resistance of trying to reach the unreachable. This is what Einstein saw. The closer you get to light speed, the more mass seems to increase, not as a trick, not as illusion, but as a truth. Mass, motion, and energy are not separate. They are threads of one fabric, and now you are pulling on that fabric, feeling its stretch, its tension. The faster you go, the harder it becomes to go faster still. You need more fuel, more thrust, more force for smaller and smaller gains, and still, light runs ahead of you. Effortless, it does not strain. It does not burn, because light carries no mass. It moves because it must. You carry mass, and so you must negotiate with motion. You sit back in your pilot's chair. The stars drift slowly by, not in streaks, but in stillness. Your ship may be fast, but the distances are vaster still. You realize that to cross space requires more than speed. It requires patience, because even if you could go nearly as fast as light, you would not age the same. Time would stretch behind you and compress ahead. A journey of decades might pass for you in moments, but for those left behind, you would be gone for lifetimes. You begin to sense the strangeness of cosmic travel. It is not just motion through space, it is motion through time, and yet you remain bound, not by ropes, but by laws. Laws that say, you may approach, but you may not arrive, not at the speed of light, not while carrying mass, because to reach light speed, you would need infinite energy, and there is no such thing as infinite energy in this world. You feel a kind of peace in this boundary, not a punishment, but a reminder that the universe is not cruel, only consistent. That light is not your rival, it is your guide. The lighthouse you are not meant to enter, but to follow. So you let your ship drift. Engines quiet now, cooling in the coldness between stars. You look behind you, the trail you've left is made not of flame, but of seconds, of stretched hours, of distance folded into thought. The stars around you seem still, but you know they are not. They too are moving. Everything is. There is no perfect stillness, only frames of reference, only perspective from Earth. You are speeding through space. From your ship, you are resting in silence as the cosmos scrolls. Past, both are true, and so you begin to understand why space travel is slow. Not because we lack imagination, not because we lack power, but because we live in a universe with rules that cherish balance. Speed has a cost, and at its edges, that cost becomes unbearable. Even dreams must obey the curvature of the real still. You are not discouraged, you are awed, because even without reaching light speed, you can go far. Given enough time, enough patience, enough clever folding of the journey, you can cross oceans of starless dark. Not in an instant, but in rhythm, and sometimes you think slowness is not failure. It is wisdom, the wisdom to know that some paths must be taken softly, that some journeys are not meant to be rushed. Your ship moves now, not with urgency, but with grace. You begin to chart the slowest paths, those of probes and photons and quiet thoughts. Voyager drifts beyond the planets. A message in a bottle. Its signal whispering across space at the speed of light. But its body, it's real. Metal shape moves slowly, so slowly, so slowly, and yet it has gone farther than any human made thing. Not because it was fast, but because it was persistent. You smile, you drift. You imagine a journey not powered by violence, but by light itself. Solar sails, thin, wide, weightless, pushed not by engines, but by sunlight. A beam becomes a breeze, and a ship becomes a petal on the cosmic wind. This too is slowness, but it is beautiful, it is precise. You begin to feel that speed is not the only kind of movement. Stillness, too, is a kind of journey, a participation in time, and sometimes remaining in one place. Lets you witness more than rushing ever could. The stars shift imperceptibly, but over decades they reveal their drift, their dance. And from your quiet place you can see it all unfold, so you breathe. You rest your hands on the console. You feel the ship not as a machine, but as a vessel of thought, a cathedral for slowness, a sanctuary from the rush. Here, distance is not the enemy. It is the canvas, and time is not the cost. It is the gift. Because in traveling slowly, you learn to see clearly, to notice what fast eyes miss, to feel the whisper of gravity's bend, the echo of a passing comet, the shift of your own breath in the rhythm of stars. You return, now, to the idea of the beam you cannot catch, not as a failure, but as a companion. Light is not teasing you, it is showing you how to measure everything else. It is the ruler against which all speed is known, the silent heartbeat beneath your every motion. And so you let go of chasing. You begin to listen. You begin to dwell. Here, where the engines sleep and space stretches forever, you find not frustration, but calm. You have nowhere to be but here, no speed to reach but your own. And now you begin to wonder if slowness is not the absence of motion, but its purest form. What happens when the fabric you float through begins to stretch beneath you? Chapter 9. When time becomes distance, you think of years, not in calendars, but in light, a light year. Time becomes a distance, and distance becomes a story told slowly. To speak across the galaxy is to speak across centuries. You begin to realize that space is not wide, it is deep, and in that depth, time hides. You sit quietly and turn the word over in your mind. Light-year. It sounds like a stretch of time, a year made of light, but it isn't, not really. A light year is a distance. It's how far light travels in a year, in that soft, constant rhythm you've followed since the beginning. It does not rush. It does not pause. It moves through vacuum at 299,792 kilometers per second, not fast because it's trying, but because that's simply what it does, because that's what it is. And in a single Earth year, light covers just under 10 trillion kilometers. That's a light year, a measure of space built from time. You hold this in your thoughts, gently, like a shell found on the edge of a tide pool. It's a strange shape, part time, part distance, part memory. You think of a candle held across a wide canyon. Its glow takes time to reach your eyes. The farther away it is, the longer the delay. Not because the light is tired, but because it has more space to cross. So when we speak of stars being light years away, we're not just describing their remoteness, we're describing the past. That starlight reaching you now, perhaps it left its home before your grandparents were born. Perhaps the star has long since dimmed. Perhaps its planets are dust, but its light is still en route, still carrying that old moment forward. Because when light travels, it carries time with it. And so you begin to see that time and distance are not two things. They are one. A message from a galaxy 2 million light years away is a message from 2 million years ago. And suddenly, space is not wide. It is deep. Like a well, a tunnel, a library shelf where every layer is a different moment. In time, you look up into the sky at night, and what you see is not a single scene. It is a museum of moments, a collection of pasts. The moon, its light takes just over a second to reach you. You always see it as it was a moment ago. The sun, 8 minutes old by the time it kisses your skin. If the sun were to vanish, you wouldn't know for 8 whole minutes. You'd feel the warmth, see the glow, trust in the illusion, long after it had gone, because light takes time, and space is woven with that time. Even Mars, your neighbor in the solar system, is never-live. When we speak to it, we speak into the past. It answers from where it was, not where it is now. Communicating with the stars means waiting, means sending signals into the dark and listening not for a reply, but for an echo that might take lifetimes to arrive. Imagine 2 people standing on either side of a vast valley. One calls out, the sound travels. The other waits, then answers. By the time the response returns, seasons have passed. This is cosmic conversation. This is how the stars talk. You begin to imagine how strange it would feel to live in that kind of time. To speak into a transmitter, knowing that no one will hear your voice for 100 years, that your words will arrive long after your body has turned to dust, but they will arrive, and maybe someone will answer. That too will take a century. It is patience beyond any one life. It is storytelling measured in centuries, and so we use the light year to measure space, because time is all we truly understand. We experience the world in seconds, in breaths, in sunrises, but in space, those seconds stretch. They become light minutes. light hours, light centuries. Time becomes a ruler, not a clock. A way to understand how far away something truly is. Not in kilometers, not in miles, but in how long its light takes to reach you. You look up at Vega, a bright blue jewel in the summer sky. It's 25 light years away, not far, by cosmic standards. Its light left around the time you were born. Every night you see it, you see your childhood, not as a memory, but as a living beam crossing space toward your eyes. You begin to feel a quiet comfort in this delay. Everything that shines is giving you time. You never see anything exactly as it is. You see it as it was, and so the universe is always a little behind, or perhaps you are always a little ahead. Even here on Earth, time and distance dance together. The GPS on your phone corrects for the slowness of satellites and the subtle bends in space and time. If it didn't, your map would drift. You'd be lost, because even tiny differences in how time flows can add up to miles. Your position depends on timing. Your journey depends on light. And so now you begin to realize there is no such thing as now in the universe. Now depends on where you are, how fast you move, how deeply you rest in a well of gravity. Every point in space carries its own clock, its own rhythm. Your now might be someone else's, just before or just after. But that's okay. It's not chaos. It's not a glitch. It's just how reality holds itself together. There is no single, shared moment, only a shimmering field of moments interwoven, and all of them are carried on, beams of light. You wonder if someone across the galaxy looked at Earth right now, what would they see? Not you, not this moment, but something older. Maybe they'd see the dinosaurs. Maybe they'd see the first cities. Maybe they'd see a planet still forming, because our now has not reached them yet. To see the present is to be close. To see the past is to be distant. And the farther you look, the deeper into history you fall. This is why astronomers look outward to look backward. The Hubble Space Telescope peers through time. Its images are ancient light, finally arriving. A photograph of a galaxy is a photograph of a moment that ended billions of years ago, but it lives, still, in the beam. You think of the phrase, far away. It sounds lonely. It sounds unreachable. But maybe it's just another way of saying long ago. And maybe that means nothing is ever truly gone. If its light still exists, it is still part of the present. A ghost, yes, but a glowing one, so space becomes not emptiness, but depth. Well of moments, layered and drifting. And in that depth, time hides. Not because it's trying to stay secret, but because it is the distance. Every meter of space holds a second. Every second holds a stretch of space. The two are braided, a single cord twisting gently through the dark. You lie back, you close your eyes, and you imagine a quiet hallway lined with candles. Each candle is a star. Each flicker is a light year. You walk, and with every step, you go back in time. 1,000 steps, 1,000 years, 1,000,000 steps, and you see galaxies forming. 1,000,000,000 and the darkness before the first light, and still you walk. Because in this journey, your feet are not what carry you. Light is dot. You move at the speed of memory, at the speed of stories told across blackness, and you begin to feel a kind of love for the slowness of space. Not because it's frustrating, but because it's honest. It does not lie about how far things are. It shows you in time. The stars are not distant. They are ancient, and the galaxies are not beyond reach. They are beyond now. To reach them is to step into their past. To speak to them is to whisper across centuries, and that makes every message holy, every beam of light a letter written by time itself. So the next time you see a star, you can say hello, not to the light, but to the moment it carries. It has traveled so far just to meet you, and now, as you prepare to return to the beam itself, the one you met long ago, you carry all this with you. You understand now why it moves the way it does, why it cannot go faster, why it is always perfectly on time, because it is the bridge between time and distance, and it is the keeper of the universe's memories. Chapter 10. The Universe in a Beam Word Count. 2700 Summary. Now you return to the beam of light, not just a thing, but a storyteller. It carries tales from galaxies and suns, from your skin and from your past. The speed of light is not a barrier, but a boundary of understanding. You rest knowing that even stillness is part of the motion, and that the universe hums softly, always at light's gentle pace. You return to the beam, not the beam as a line, or a flash, or a chase across space, but as something quieter, something closer, something that listens as well as it speaks. You sit still in the dark, and there it is again, a shimmer, a soft brush across your cheek, the whisper of a sun millions of miles away, light but not light, as science once named it, not wave or particle, not just an entry in a chart. Tonight it is a thread, a message, a presence. It comes from everywhere, from stars that died before your ancestors were born, from the moonlit ocean you once walked beside, from the breath-warmed skin of someone who once smiled at you in candlelight. Light remembers. It carries memory in its speed, in its silence, in its distance, and you begin to see it not as something that moves, but as something that connects, that holds the moments of the universe together like beads on an invisible string. Each photon a tiny courier, traveling faithfully at the same steady pace. No matter where it began, the speed of light, you've learned, is not a convenience. It is a boundary, a rhythm, a law that tells you how long ago something happened. You gaze at a star, and it gazes back with light it cast before you were born. That star may be gone now, but its beam lives on. Time itself is woven into those rays. 100 years of distance, 1,000, 1,000,000. Each step a message. You touch your own hand, and even there, light reflects. Not starlight, but oolite, skin light. Photons bouncing off you, toward mirrors, toward eyes, toward the night. They are telling the world, I am here. I was here. Even in this room, quiet, dark, without a single switch flipped, there are photons from your phone, your breathing, your warmth. And so, you begin to realize you are also a sender. You emit, you shine. Quietly, yes, but constantly. You are made of particles that shimmer just slightly, just enough to be part of this light language. And the beam, the one you imagined in mirrors, in lanterns between the stars, is not something separate. It is in you. It passes through you. It reflects from you. The beam is the universe talking to itself. When you studied light speed, you may have thought of it as a limit, a ceiling, an end. But now you see it differently. It is not the fence at the edge of the yard. It is the path that lets every signal have meaning. If light moved faster, you would see stars before they were born. Messages would outrun their cause. The past would crumble. Sequence would collapse. Instead, there is order, Not slow, not fast, but just right. The universe unfolds with perfect pacing, so the beam does not block. It shapes, it gives the universe its tempo, and you, resting now, feel this rhythm in your own breath, because even in stillness, you are moving through space, yes, carried by Earth's spin, by the planet's path around the sun, by the sun's long drift through the Milky Way, but also through time, 1 second, then another, each carried forward on the back of light. You are never motionless, even as you sleep, and the beam, it watches, not with eyes, but with presence. It leaves no moment unvisited, no hesitate, unlit a tear caught on a cheek, a flicker of laughter in the corner of a room, a hand raised in farewell. Each one has been touched by light, and each one, somewhere, is still traveling. Yes, those photons are gone now from your sight, but they go on and on into the universe, bearing quiet testimony that you were here, that this happened. So, in a way, nothing is truly lost. Not completely, because the beam remembers, and as you gaze again at the night sky, you feel how full it truly is, not of light, but of memory, of time still arriving. The space between the stars is not empty. It is filled with what was, with what still moves, with what light has yet to finish saying. You sit in this thought. You breathe with it. You feel how deeply personal this science is. Not just equations, not just telescopes, but something as simple as holding your hand to the sun, and knowing that light has traveled minutes to meet you. It left the surface of the sun 8 minutes ago, across millions of kilometers, just to touch your skin. And still, you almost missed it. It is easy to forget what light is doing all around you. Even now, the light from distant galaxies streams into your eyes, too faint to notice, and yet there it is. Evidence, arrival, testament. So you imagine again that first beam from chapter 1, that first breath of light across the darkness. You did not chase it then. You followed, you listened. You let it teach you how speed and stillness are not enemies. Now you feel something new, not all you've already met. This is something gentler. Gratitude for the beam, for its patience, for its voice, for the fact that no matter where you go, it is already there, not waiting, not watching, but being, because the beam does not rush. It moves at its own pace, and in doing so, it creates the world you live in. And so, you rest again, not because you are finished, but because motion never ends, because even now the beam carries on through glass, through sky, through stars, always steady, always quiet, always full of meaning. It has no eyes, no hands, no mind, and yet it holds everything. A pulse, a boundary, a rhythm. The hum of the universe at its most constant light is not what you see. It is what you are inside of, what you live within, what gives shape to seeing and to knowing and to time itself. And tonight, in this last chapter, you realize something final and yet endless. The beam is not the story. It is the storyteller, and you are one of its many tales. Last lines, somewhere in the dark, a photon leaves a star, crosses a galaxy, and touches your eye as if to say, you are part of this motion, too.